Hello everyone, my name is Robert Hemphill,
And I'm Josue Alvarez.
and this is our senior project focusing on a new design for the rec center exercise room equipment layouts. So in this video, we will be talking through the major milestones of our project in terms of its background, problem statement, data collection, designs, testing, and conclusion. Cal Poly's Rec Center is a facility that has always been extremely popular. In 2007, it began an expansion project because of this popularity. In addition to this, Cal Poly's student population is always on the rise, with it increasing by over 10% in just a couple of years. On top of this, Cal Poly is even currently expanding on its on-campus housing, which is another cause for more use of the Rec Center. These factors, while not a certain guarantee, are reasonable cause to suspect that the issue of overcrowding has returned in full to the Rec Center. In order to not simply assume, though, that this problem exists, we released a survey at the beginning of last quarter to confirm what the current student population thinks about this issue of overcrowding. Though there were many takeaways from this survey, the most significant is the confirmation that students do agree that they experience overcrowding at the rec center. Building on that, they also agree that it negatively impacts their overall experience at the facility. So with this kind of overwhelming consensus among students, we believe it is safe to conclude that overcrowding is a problem at the rec center that demands being addressed.
As Robert mentions, the rec center experiences overcrowding in its 3 exercise rooms on a regular basis. The main effects that come along with the issue of overcrowding are increased equipment unavailability, reduced personal space and comfort zone, and increased risk of injury and equipment damage. Now, given that the Cal Poly Rec Center fees are paid by all students, we define the student population to be our primary customer. However, the effects of overcrowding not only affect the users, but the staff members as well. So receiving feedback and requests from our secondary customers is critical in minimizing the effects of overcrowding. First, we will focus on the unavailability of equipment in order to distinguish between high and low demand equipment. To do so, we decided to conduct a work sampling study where we gathered 50 samples for all equipment within scope from each exercise room. The equipment is categorized in 3 parts. First, cardio equipment such as treadmills and ellipticals. Secondly, compound equipment such as flat benches and squat racks. And thirdly, isolation machines, which are located towards the front of each exercise room. The first work sampling study conducted by Robert determined the standard procedure for our data collection. This entailed following the same route for every trial. As shown on the right, we used a binary scale to represent which equipment was being used. Here, a 0 means that the equipment is not being utilized, and a 1 means the equipment is currently in use. However, there were a few limitations regarding the inability to sample exclusively peak hours. In addition, due to time constraints, some work sampling trials were taken in batches, meaning that we conducted trials back-to-back with little to no time in between.
The results of our work sampling confirmed that there is an imbalance when it comes to equipment usage. In order to ensure, though, that this imbalance can be said about all equipment usage, we completed hypothesis testing on all of the exercise rooms. The results concluded with over 99% certainty that compound equipment is used more than either cardio or isolation machines in every room. Moving forward, this means that the effects of overcrowding could be lightened if the equipment usage was more balanced. So moving forward with our project, our focus became designing layouts that remove low usage equipment while adding high usage equipment. So in order to create these alternative layout designs, we decided to utilize the Ecovia software that the Rec Center is actually currently beginning to use as well. The general structure of each layout first started with accurate room dimensions in order to ensure that spatial availability was not misleading. we were able to retrieve accurate room dimensions by analyzing the construction blueprints for the rec center. Some limitations on our layout designs would include things such as the fact that the equipment locations are estimated and not meant to be exact. In addition to this, some equipment models could not be found in the used software, so similar models were used as a replacement and colored black. For each room, a total of 2 alternative layouts were created, each of them following a specific set of rules. So with our conservative design structure for each exercise room, the bare bones basic idea behind each of the designs is that first and foremost, we would be purchasing duplicates of the 5 most used equipments while selling the 5 least used equipments. The most notable exceptions to this rule is that we can't purchase more than one of the same equipment, and we can't sell equipment that is a one-of or doesn't have duplicates. And on a final note, the size of the equipment being bought or sold is accounted for by assigning a size factor to every piece of equipment. And the purchase list for the exercise room is only followed up until the total size factor is equal to or less than that of the sold purchase list. So now with our aggressive design structure, there's a similar type of formula. This time we're purchasing duplicates of the 10 most used equipments while selling the 10 least used pieces of equipments. And since this is the aggressive version of our designs, there's no exceptions to these rules. It's very cutthroat. And just like the other design structure, we're accounting for the size of equipment to ensure that the level of open space that these exercise rooms currently have is not being impeded in any way. So for the sake of time, we won't be showing you every single one of the 6 alternative layouts that we designed for the rec center. Instead, we'll be showcasing just the 2 layout alternatives that we made for the largest exercise room. So here we have shown the conservative alternative layout of this large second floor exercise room. In the layout, we make sure to clearly indicate what the added equipment is, what the removed equipment is, and where the added equipment would be located. And now we have shown the aggressive alternative layout, which is a much more dramatic process of equipment replacement. And as before, the removed and added pieces of equipment are indicated both visually and in writing, and the added equipment locations are displayed in the layout itself.
So in addition to designing alternative layouts of each exercise room, the rec center staff thought it would be helpful to have an interactive database system, as they currently have their inventory information stored in a spreadsheet. With that, we put our database skills to the test by designing a user-friendly database that facilitates searching and updating necessary information. The equipment is identified by type, manufacturer, model, asset tags, and serial number. So having an on-the-fly search main page deemed critical to reach an efficient database system. Other additional features included editing, adding, deleting, and counting inventory. In terms of testing our design, we decided to conduct a second survey on the Cal Poly student body to determine which strategic approach would best minimize the effects of overcrowding. This is due to the inability to implement our design within the project timeline and administrative resistance to change. Therefore, a survey proposing alternative designs allowed us to confirm the customer's needs. As shown on the right, the pages of the survey were sectioned by exercise room. With that, each design was given a rating up to 5 stars and a comment text box. Another testing metric included in the survey was the participants' choice of the most appealing design. The survey results of the second floor big exercise room exposed the weighted average, as shown on the left, indicating that the conservative design is rated highest, obtaining a majority of 3-star and 4-star votes. On the other hand, the aggressive design received the lowest weighted average. However, it also received the highest number of 5-star and 1-star ratings, which we believe is due to the extreme impact on one particular area of the exercise room. With that, the aggressive design was still up for consideration, so after reviewing and rating all three designs, participants were asked to choose the most appealing design, and interestingly enough, the aggressive alternative design took the lead with 40% of 81 votes.
So in the last page of the survey, we calculated the theoretical increase in cost per student per quarter and ASI fees that would be required to purchase the necessary equipment for each respective design alternative. The costs were rounded up to about 50 cents for the conservative route and $1 for the aggressive route. For the most part, participants were in accordance with our proposed costs, given how impactful the renovations would be. However, this question might have been misleading since there is a set budget for the rec center, and increasing the ASI fee is a bit of a restricted issue. So with that, we added a question to the survey regarding the willingness to allocate resources from other program areas, and as shown in the above results, most students were in accordance with this as well. Ultimately, we had a few main takeaways from the testing of our layout designs. First, we concluded that the aggressive alternative layouts had mixed reviews, with most ratings being either 1 or 5 star. Despite this, another main takeaway is that the smaller second floor exercise room had very positive feedback for their aggressive layout. And on a final note, the business case portion of the survey yielded very hopeful results in that students seem in agreement that implementation would be a worthwhile process. So in conclusion of our project as a whole, we conclude with certainty that students are extremely interested in the prospect of replacing low usage equipment in the exercise rooms. Due to the results of testing our designs not being exactly ideal, we do think that there would be room for further investigation into other alternative layout designs, if time was not a constraint for our project. Nonetheless, the results from our testing were far from detrimental, and as such, we still have alternative recommendations for each of the 3 exercise rooms. For the first floor, our recommendation is the conservative alternative. For the larger second floor room, we also recommend the conservative version. However, for the smaller second floor exercise room, we do recommend the aggressive alternative simply because it yielded such positive results. It is also our hope that what we have covered in this presentation has provided you with enough information to understand our project in full, but we would be more than happy to answer any questions regarding our project when the time comes. Aside from that, we thank you for taking the time to sit through all of this, and we are excited to hear soon from the Rec Center regarding what they think of our recommendations.